Now this may surprise you, but there were actually 2 other weapons besides Marty that launched with Act 3. Now I know the focus was mainly on Marty, myself included, but after getting the specimen necessary to finally focus these weapons, we are now taking a look at the Void Trace Rifle Chronophage. This is the second of its kind, putting it squarely in competition with Hollow Denial, but also indirectly with arguably one of the strongest Void weapons ever, which recently rolled out to us, Choir of One. Now I know it's 2 different type of weapons, but they are both special weapons, so they're more alike here than you think. Just one's an exotic, the other is a legendary, but we'll be doing comparisons between the both of those at the end of this. Where Chronophage does kick it up a notch is in its utility. That, alongside its build crafting capabilities, this is the trace rifle that I think you may want to consider. Now let's start with some of the perks that are present here on this weapon. In our third column, we have Elemental Capacitor, Strategist, Shoot to Loot, Pugilist, Auto-Loading Holster, Feeding Frenzy, and Repulsor Brace. Then in our fourth column, we have One For All, High Ground, Fragile Focus, Target Lock, Demolitionist, Desperate Measures, and Destabilizing Rounds. Now like I mentioned a second ago, it's the build crafting and utility routes that's going to make Chronophage stand out. With perks like Strategist, Shoot to Loot, Pugilist, Repulsor Brace, all of these have great utility. I'm going to start with Strategist and Pugilist first though. These are just your basic ability regeneration perks that can greatly contribute to any neutral game build. You've got Strategist here where final blows of this weapon generate class ability energy, and activating your class ability briefly improves this weapon's stability. Now this is a nice 10% class ability energy that you get back per kill, 11% with the enhanced version, with that added boost to stability whenever you use your class ability. Now moving over to Pugilist. The effects are the exact same here, that being 10% at base, 11% enhanced, except in this case, when you deal melee damage, you actually grant yourself some handling. Now, Strategist and Pugilist both are actually perks that I've utilized for many of my neutral game builds. Now, another trait to look at in that third column is Shoot to Loot. Essentially, shooting an overpower picks it up, shooting an ammo brick picks it up automatically, and reloads all of your equipped weapons from reserves. I actually feel like a lot of people sleep on this perk, man. And I know like mainly in like low mans or even solo content, Shoot to Loot is incredibly valuable there. Now the enhanced version doesn't really help it all that much. It gives it like +5 range, which in my opinion, it's not even worth the Ascendant Alloy. Now what I do like about Chronophage with Shoot to Loot is that this is actually a mean to auto reload your weapon. A lot of times it's on primary weapons. You use it to top off ammo for your other weapons and then swap to those other weapons. But in this case, you're using Chronophage to literally top off the weapon that's in your hand, therefore allowing you to jump right back into the gunfight. Now, if you're looking for a separate type of utility, this brings us to our last perk, Repulsor Brace. It reads that defeating a void debuff target grants an overshield. Now, this is a 45% HP overshield and it lasts for 8 seconds, with the enhanced version of this perk lasting for 10 seconds. But let me just say, overshields go beyond just that health that it adds. It's also the 50% damage resistance that you'll get while you have the overshield. It's a good perk, guys. And if you're leaning into things like Gerfalcons or even Spirit of Gerfalcons, Repulsor Brace here is a wonderful perk to synergize with. However, we don't need just Gerfalcons to make use of Repulsor Brace. In our fourth column, one of the best perks to combine with Repulsor Brace is Destabilizing Rounds, which reads that final blows causes nearby targets to become volatile. Now, essentially, guys, on a kill, you get this detonation within a radius of 6.5 meters that makes everything volatile. Now, there is a 3-second cooldown here, so you can't keep applying it, but the enhanced version does drop this down to 2.5 seconds. The perk is very good. I love it on weapons like Choir of One. That combination with Repulsor Brace, though, is meant for each other. And it's a combination I've utilized on many primary weapons, but not that many special weapons. And with it being a trace rifle, you've got a lot more opportunities here to secure kills and feed into itself. Now, if you don't want to go that route, say you want to go a more traditional route, you do have other options in that fourth column. From things like One For All, Target Lock, Desperate Measures. Those are your normal run-of-the-mill damage perks. One For All being the easiest one to proc here, as you just have to tag up 3 targets to get that 35% damage buff. And I do prefer it over Target Lock, as Target Lock requires you to be locked in on a single target. Again, you're using Chronophage here as a means to clear ads. And with something like One For All, especially the enhanced version of One For All, you simply tag up 3 enemies and boom, you've got 11 seconds of 35% more damage. This, in my opinion, opinion, is much better than the gradual increase that you get from target lock. That, yes, will eventually get to a 40% increase in damage, but that's if you reach 110% of the mag, which you cannot do here with Chronophage. And secondly, you're not really using it to melt champions. You're using it as like this pseudo primary weapon to take on multiple ads. Now, the final combination I'm going to bring up is actually Demolitionist. If you so wish to go the route of just saying, hey, I want a weapon that's going to feed into my neutral abilities better than anything else. Well, hell, guys, you've got Demolitionist, Strategist, Pugilist. You could do those combinations together here. You've got the ability to top off your class ability or your melees on top of your grenade. I would really only do this if I was like, okay, I need a dedicated weapon here just to give me back my abilities. Personally, guys, I would lean more into the damage of Chronophage itself. Now, the last piece of this weapon is actually the origin trait. Again, this is the episode weapon. It comes with the origin trait Radiolaria Transposer, which states that rapid final blows causes targets to explode into a pool of Radiolarian fluids. Now, this is the same origin trait on the rest of our Echo weapons, but it takes 3 rapid kills on red bar enemies to then spawn in this pool, with the lead or higher enemies spawning in the pool on every kill. Now, believe me, it's nothing crazy, guys. You're not going to be getting massive amounts of kills here with that pool. Not bad in game modes like Onslaught, where there are a ton of enemies, but a lot of enemies do just walk straight through the pool and it hardly does any damage. You can, however, bolster this origin trait with artifact mods like Logic Reductor. This actually increases the duration of that pool and it allows it to deal more damage against Vex enemies, which is fantastic for Battlegrounds and this season's content. Now, before we get into the God roll, we do need to touch on a few minor perks in regards to the magazine, that being battery perks, as well as our barrel perks. Now, in terms of battery perks, personally, guys, anything that can increase your mag size is what I go for. Enhanced battery is pretty good. Ionize is okay, but it does hurt your reload speed. But if you're looking for like an all-rounder, you could do something like Tactical Battery. It'll give you like faster reload speed, that small bump to range and handling, just a very well-rounded perk. Now, in terms of barrel perks, we're considering that the recoil direction is already at 99. In this situation, whatever you want, guys. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing a barrel perk that hurts some of my stats, things like full bore, extended barrel, things that really diminish handling and stability. Instead, you may just want to go with things like Corkscrew Rifle, small bore, Hammerforge. And I would say when we talk about PvP, choosing the barrel perk for you doesn't really matter all that much. Now, with everything on Chronophage broken down here, what is the God roll? Call me basic, fellas, but I think Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing Rounds for that constant uptime of Void Overshields and our ability to be more lethal against a large group of ads, I think this is the way to go. It's popular for a reason. However, if you feel like your survivability is just fine, I do believe that Shoot to Loot, Destabilizing Rounds is a very good combination, especially for keeping Chronophage in the gunfight. Literally just popping a couple ammo bricks and boom, you're off to the races again. But really, guys, here, you can't go wrong with any of these. And with it being a void weapon, you could synergize as the volatile. You can lean into those neutral game abilities if you so wish. And with it being a craftable weapon, everything here is enhanced. Now, what is the DPS of Chronophage? Well, let me just say, guys, it's not that great. Firstly, trace rifles are ad clearing weapons. They're effectively used as a primary weapon, so it's pretty much what they're compared to. Matter of fact, if we briefly glance over on Mossy Max's primary DPS charts, you can see that trace rifles aren't even the highest. Regular primary weapons beat it out in some cases, namely adaptive burst sidearms, regular adaptive sidearms, heavy burst pulse rifles, with the rest of the cast being close behind. Now, in terms of our other special primary weapons, think things like rocket sidearms, they absolutely dwarf the DPS of trace rifles, which is why I believe that trace rifles in general need a buff. The fact that they consume special ammo, but they're getting beat out by primaries, they need help. Inquire of One is way ahead of every trace rifle in the game. And I know it's an auto rifle, but it's a special auto rifle, which is kind of what a trace rifle is too, which is why this review is so focused around the utility of Chronophage. This is not some crazy damage dealing weapon that's gonna melt the battlefield. But I am hopeful at some point in the future, Bungie will lean into giving our trace rifles a little more love. Now for my PvP players. Fellas, I spent some time inside of Iron Banana just giving it a go. Trying out that max range roll that can reach up to almost 40 meters. And with a 0.73 time to kill value at 11 crits one body, I put it to the test. The reality is that the ammo economy for trace rifles inside of PvP is abysmal. Now, can you make it work here with Chronophage? You can. I mean, you start off with 25 rounds. You can loot some of these special boxes to give yourself even more ammo. But in my opinion, trace rifles, even though they do have a slightly faster time to kill value, doesn't warrant using them over other weapons, especially other special weapons. weapons. The only way I can really make Chronophage work is by going for that Hammer Forge projection fuse, elemental capacitor, high ground roll with the range masterwork. Essentially, boosting that range as much as I can so that I don't run into any damage fall off, using elemental capacitor with either things like Void for that increase in stability or with things like Arc for that increase in handling, but most notably taking advantage of high ground. High ground's actually gotten some buffs where final blows with this weapon grant stacks of bonus damage. Attacking targets from higher ground immediately grants this maximum number of stacks. Now, the main takeaway for high ground is that it increases our damage just enough to drop our time to kill value. For instance, on Max Resilience Guardians, you're able to get that kill in 8 crits 3 body in 0.67 seconds. Matter of fact, from tier 9 Resilience, you're able to do that in 0.6 seconds. So high ground actually cooks, but it is somewhat situational, as you do have to have the high ground if you're trying to take full advantage of it. Now you may be wondering, Cross, what about target lock? Target lock doesn't move the needle here, guys, for a trace rifle. You see, it takes 12 shots to even activate target lock. When in reality, if you're reaching that optimal time to kill value, you're going to get the kill in 12 shots anyways. Now, if you're going for body shots, then obviously, yes, target lock can work for you. But I'd rather just go out of my way and utilize high ground. Overall, it's not a bad trace rifle. It's just that, in my opinion, trace rifles just aren't a good fit for PvP, outside of maybe Cold Heart. So that's it, guys. That is our review for our Void Trace Rifle Chronophage. Let me know in the comments below if we missed anything. Hopefully, Bungie comes around to actually giving some love to our traces. I know they have good ammo economy, and that's kind of their balancing nature there. They're like, hey, yes, they're not the strongest weapons, but they have more special ammo. But when you have primary weapons that can out DPS these traces, I think it's time Bungie gives them a little buff. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.